Conversations from the Zoom Room.
Hi everybody, Bill here, reporting to you live from Art Alley on Cedros Avenue. This is right next to our office. Such a cool place to be. In this new episode of Conversations from the Zoom Room featuring David Friedfeld, we're going to hear him talk about Reopen Eyecare, the Vision Council's new initiative to help practices get back on their feet. He's going to talk about changes within the Vision Council. He'll share his sales predictions for the industry for the rest of the year. He's also going to expand on something very interesting called extinction thinking, so listen up. And last but not least, he's going to tell us what French toast for dinner is all about. Enjoy this episode of Conversations from the Zoom Room. What's happening, my little optical buddy? Good to see you with a big smile on your face, both of you gentlemen.
So this morning I woke up, went out to my garage and noticed a lot of, this buzzing sound. And I was like, what fresh hell is this? I checked my watch, it's still 2020. So I was like, oh my God. First I thought it was murder hornets had taken over.
Murder hornets?
Yeah. Thankfully it was just bees, so I got a swarm of bees in my garage right now. I got to figure out what to do about them. But at least they're not murder hornets, so I got that going for me, which is nice.
Yeah. For you, David, we know that you just came off of another webinar, right?
I did.
Reopen. Could you want to tell us some of the highlights of that initiative?
Of Reopen Eyecare.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the way the site works right now, and as I said, it'll be improved, almost I would say on a bi-weekly basis, you can see some significant improvement. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we have right now is an organized way of addressing content. So by example, if you wanted to get the latest data, and we have data broken down into, let's say, economic data, market data, etc. Mm-hmm. If you want to get data, you'd go to the data section and you'd be able to see updated data on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So normally speaking, you might have to go to 3 or 4 or 5 different data sites to get all of that data. Mm-hmm. Here it's presented in that format. If you wanted to go to, say, regulations and rules, and you wanted to find out the latest about guidelines or federal guidelines and rules, or any new legislation that's passed, or maybe guidelines for PPE, etc., you'd be able to organize yourself right under that, in looking at the subheaders. So every section will be organized that way. Mm-hmm. I think where we're going to see the next evolution is in what we would call tools and assets. So one of the tools we have now is a cash flow analysis of your organization. Mm-hmm. And that is a very, very simple tool. You plug in 3 or 4 different numbers, and then basically you're able to see where your cash flow is at the end of a time period. Mm-hmm. That type of tool, we will put 3, 4, 5 other tools on the site, so you'll be able to run your business pretty easily. And again, normally speaking, these would be things that maybe your accountant would do for you, or maybe your product manager would do for you. Any of the tools we would put on would be making your life easier. Sure. And again, in one place.
It's interesting with Reopen and the Vision Council. I mean, there's obviously an opportunity for Vision Council to expand the reach, right? Vision Council's a great organization. I think it's just getting better and better as time goes on. How do you feel that this initiative, plus some other things the Vision Council is doing kind of in response to COVID, will change that organization?
And the Vision Council, as you know, is a member organization. Yeah. Membership dues, if you will, most are generated, about 80% or more, are generated from the shows. Mm-hmm. The shows change in any way, shape, or form. Then the membership, the funding will change. Mm-hmm. And the same thing is true for what the members want. I think right now, for example, the Vision Council's mission, if you look at their mission statement, it's not to protect the viability of the members going forward. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the lobbying arm of the Vision Council is a small lobbying arm, government regs, et cetera. Yeah. That may be something that grows if they wanted to have a bigger influence in the marketplace. Education can grow dramatically because they have a tremendous education facility but it revolves around physical education at 2 shows.
Mhm.
So I would say that it wouldn't surprise me that at some point and I'm not on the board, I'm speaking as an outside person.
Mhm.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Vision Council looked within and said, hey, based on the marketplace now and based on what's going on, we may need to change some of the things we do going forward.
It's questions about overall sales of our industry. Obviously, we took a punch to the gut, closures and supply chain issues and the like. So, in your opinion, and you get out your crystal ball, how much do you think sales will be down industry-wide in 2020?
The industry, as best I can tell, which means sharing information with people like me, was probably at 10%, somewhere between 7 to 13% per office in the month of April. Mm-hmm. So compared to last April, in the month of May, most people would tell me they were somewhere between 15 and 30% of the previous year. Mm-hmm. Strangely enough, the first day this week, yesterday, mm-hmm. Or actually today's Wednesday, the first 2 days of business this week are actually quite healthy for ClearVision, but I presume it's the same for a lot of other companies. Mm-hmm. So because business is now opening, sure. So there's more regular business. So what I would say is for the month of June, most people I've spoken to, so people like ClearVision, would say 35 to 40%. Mm-hmm. And I would say these are comfortable estimates. The challenge is these are the smaller months. Yeah. Now, if we said, okay, we're going to return to regular business, 90% off in December, we truly don't know those 3 other factors that I mentioned. What's the government going to do? Mm-hmm. What's the virus going to do? Yeah. And what's the consumer demand? Right now, I think the consumer demand is up high. Anecdotally, I'd love to say, I think the industry will be off 50 or 60 or 70% or 30%. Mm-hmm. But I think the best way to do it is look at it month by month, mm-hmm. and see if things are going in the right direction, you improve a little bit.
Speaking of adapting and rising to the occasion, and we move into more current events and something that was probably simmering for a long time, but somewhat unexpected, and the timing is all the protests, the riots, the violence, the looting. I wanted to get your take on this and see where your head's at on this topic.
Well, there's a lot of things going on in the society generally. Yeah. So let's agree that always, whether it's in the family, whether it's in an organization, whether it's in a community or in society, there's always going to be things that are bubbling under the surface. Yeah. The current social unrest, which is a real frustration on the part of multiple groups, but obviously on the part of African Americans initially, with how the social justice system works in the United States, how policing works, how the criminal justice system works. That's been bubbling for quite a number of years, and decades, in fact. But what we're seeing in the protests and movement today, if it continues, probably will be much larger a requirement for social justice. It's probably a year or two ago, if you recall, Occupy Wall Street. Yeah. That's one movement. Obviously, Bernie Sanders, Social Democrats, that's another movement. AOC in New York and others, it's a different movement. But they're all related, which is to say that more people in society want a bigger share of what society can provide. And at the base level for African American, it would be, I want to be able to walk down the street and feel comfortable walking down the street, and I don't want to feel uncomfortable by the color of my skin. And that's in the United States, that has to be a base level for everyone.
So back on the business side of things, I'm just curious about thinking, right? We've been talking about adaptation and new ways of thinking, but I'm taking that on the flip side. What thinking do you think currently will lead to business extinction?
The extinction that we would talk about is if, in fact, ECPs, that means both independent and commercial, run out of cash. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What happens if you run out of cash way before your demand comes back. And in part, our economy has been shut down. We have a 22 or $23 trillion economy that got shut down effectively for 10 weeks. On purpose, by the way. That's never happened. We went from 3.5 million people unemployed to over 40 million unemployed in 10 weeks. That's never happened. So we have one of those mass extinction opportunities or situations right now. And how do we prevent that? So in fairness, we have to look at what we have to adapt to, because if you recall from Darwin, and again, Dave Shute and I talk about this a lot, economic Darwinism would be, it's not the biggest company, it's not the fastest company per se, it's not the strongest company per se, but it's the company that adapts the most. And I think for independent eye care professionals and businesses generally, this will be about adapting to everything that we see. And the adaptation has to happen fast. We don't have 10,000 years to adapt.
Yeah. What is your favorite recipe that your mother makes growing up?
My favorite of what my mother made. Okay, so it may sound strange because sometimes they just say go with your first answer. So what is it that I remember? I remember my mother made great French toast. Now a lot of people that I've seen they use syrup on their French toast, but my mother made French toast that was rather greasy and with lots of sugar on top, and and white bread, which I don't think I've seen white bread in my house in 30 years. But it was something that I really, really enjoyed, and crisp bacon. Now, that doesn't say a lot about my mother's cooking, because you said favorite recipe, favorite thing, but my mom was a great cook. But the first thing that came to my mind was, boy, I can't wait to have French toast for dinner. That was something that was like a treat. It's almost like dessert.
Awesome.
Here's another question. This is about what is an item that your wife threw away that you retrieved because you just couldn't bear to have it thrown away, if any?
Oh my God!
You disclose this first of all.
Well, let's say this. I'm not quite a hoarder, not quite, but I have a lot of stuff that I've collected over the years. And when you said what was something that your wife threw out that you went back and retrieved, I would tell you I have a little bit of a different story. It was a number of years ago that we were redoing the house. My sons are in their 30s now, so I would say about 20 years ago, I was away for a trip, and the house, we were doing some kind of construction in the house, and my family went downstairs and just took a lot of the stuff that I had collected and started to throw it out. So when I got home, the dumpster had already been, already gone once. And I was like furious. I was like, my entire life, you've taken my entire life. So I did go into the dumpster and try to find anything, the second dumpster now, anything that kind of reminded me of early life. And it could have been things that I gave my kids, like a little toy that I bought. You buy a McDonald's Happy Meal and there's some toy that comes with it. I would have been the guy collecting that. I was in that dumpster just finding anything. There were 8 tracks. Bill, you remember what an 8 track is? You were too young. So, 8 tracks in there, anything, nothing of value, nothing that I should have kept, but it was important to me. And my family thought I was nuts. I was very angry at the time. And since then, they've never thrown anything out without asking me, can we throw this out?
Well, David, thank you so much for your time. It's been awesome chatting again.
This was fun. I had a lot of fun. Listen, Bill, I felt like friends interviewing friends. Maybe I should interview you next time. I'll do the interview on you.
You should do it anytime. Thanks so much, Dave. Talk to you soon.
Take care, buddy. Thanks for everything. Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Conversations from the Zoom Room.